behind. The room is now locked. All right. Good evening. Episode 2 Difficult Discussions. Same players, different roles. Tonight, I will be playing the role of the fact checker, sitting back, letting two gentlemen have a discussion about a particular topic. My name is Johnny, if you didn't know, and I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves while I do a little behind the scenes work to get this thing started up officially. Gentlemen, you have the floor.
I'll go just because of how my screen says. My name's Vernon. Just a Midwestern guy. I'm an educator to the core of my values, and I self-proclaimed big dumb jock. But key is I'm an educator. I've worked in schools for 16 years, teacher, coach, administrator, and I like to get into social dialogue because everything about growth in education. As I said last week, I tell students all the time, conflict is natural. Conflict is something that we all have. It's how we make it through conflict, learn how to communicate through conflict and differences. That's where growth happens. So I like this platform to have different points of view about social issues where instead of being in people's comments, you actually get to see tone, tenor, demeanor, mannerisms, all those things, to discuss these things that we're discussing anyway.
I'm Brandon, also a ex-big dumb jock. Outdoor stuff, typical what some people consider redneck, minus the racist stereotype that most of them have. Fishing, outdoors, sports, trucks, cars, difficult topic conversations with friends. Hopefully we can get some of these topics out there for a lot of people to see and understand that it's okay to have different viewpoints and learn from each other and discuss things without being disrespectful and hateful towards each other.
All right, that sounds great, and I'm sure this is going to be a very fruitful episode for everyone. Now, gentlemen, I let you guys pick the topic this week, and I'd like for you to offer your perspective on the actual topic, what we're going to be discussing today. So, Vernon, I'll let you start from what you expect to get from the conversation today, given the topic.
Just looking at the topic, Brandon got to pick the topic, but I support it 100%. It's about athletes professionally and celebrities that use their platform and their capacity to discuss social issues, to protest, to bring awareness, to use their voice, even during their actual duties, their job, to make statements and kind of the opinion of, is that appropriate? Should they be doing that? Or even if, do we think it's valid? So from my end, I think that every American should be able to express themselves and should be able to protest, do things, just like I said last week. There could be a fallout from it. There could be a consequence to it. There could be adversity to it. But everybody should be able to express themselves for who they are and how they want to express themselves. I don't think your financial status, I don't believe that your notoriety should change that. As long as you are still held to the same standard of being consistent, not hypocritical, not venomous, not attacking people, so on and so forth.
Understood. Brandon, I will give you the same opportunity to answer that question. What do you expect to gain from the conversation tonight based on your perspective of the topic?
I think my biggest thing that I would like to take away from this is an understanding, because there's a lot of people online that, support celebrities and athletes kind of giving their opinion on their personal opinion on matters that are in some situations controversial topics or social issues and things like that, and then you have another crowd that is 100% against it. I think it was just a couple days ago, somebody had mentioned Colin Kaepernick, and that was one of the topics that we, started going back and forth on. And do I think that him spreading the message is a bad thing? No, not by any means. I'm personally a firm believer in when you're at work to do your job. And when you start bringing in controversial topics, social issues, your personal opinion, and things like that into the job, if you're not the person that owns the team, owns the business, owns the brand, label, whatever it is, you're potentially causing a crowd of people to now dislike your team, your brand, your show, your movie, whatever it is that you're in. And that affects other people's incomes, that affects other people's lifestyles, that affects how other people are looked at and viewed upon, because you decided to share your opinion at work on a national platform, since we're mainly speaking about celebrities and athletes. And I don't think that that's right to be doing that, because you're at work to do your job.
Okay, fair point. Now, this, ladies and gentlemen, is where you have two people who directly have an opposing view on a subject, and they're going to talk about it with each other. And it's not going to divulge into nonsense. It's not going to divulge into name calling. We're actually going to be able to talk about it like human beings. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys have to say going forward. So at this point, Vernon, I'm going to allow you to take what Brandon just said, extrapolate that, and respond based on his feelings.
Yeah, well, it's a couple of things. First, I've been connected to the Colin Kaepernick situation because we share the same fraternal bond. He's a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, so am I. So that's always going to be looked at as my frat brother. We have a connection, and it's interesting when I talk about fraternal organizations being a black male, black fraternity. It is passed when you graduate from college and things like that. But I think it's interesting the opinion of when the player does something, when everything about a production of a sporting event or any form of other entertainment medium, everything around that is developing points and celebrating things outside of what you're there for. A football game has 10 times more things happening at it that have nothing to do with football, but people buy ad time. In the month of November, we have Salute to Service, where Nike and the NFL makes millions of dollars celebrating our military, and not even just the direct support, but bringing support for the military, breast cancer awareness in October, which they've changed into just an overall cause month. They bring those things onto the field, goalposts, gloves, cleats, all of these things get brought onto the field. But as soon as it's a social justice issue for blacks, all of a sudden you should just be doing your job. During the week as a professional athlete, they go read at schools. They go sign autographs at events. They have, like, being a professional athlete is actually a full-time job, even outside of practice and training, where you have obligations to the community for the team. So you could do all those things for good photo ops, for community building. You could do all those things. But when it's something that's near and dear to your own heart, you shouldn't be able to do that. But I also say Colin Kaepernick took a knee, and people wanted to know why he was taking a knee. So then that's where the discussion came from, which was the purpose after it initially started. But what's interesting is if I have a loved one or issue and I take my wrist and write that on my wrist, nobody questions that. And I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm bringing awareness to something by adding an icon. So I don't see what the difference is whether I'm at work or not. I wear a pink wristband. I wear a Kobe Bryant wristband every day to work. Mamba mentality, because I love Kobe Bryant and I love the concept of Mamba mentality. But there be some people that might think different because they have an opinion about Kobe Bryant, and they would question why I'm doing that in my capacity as an assistant principal. Because I like the person, I like the message. That's it, and I'm advertising it while I'm at work. as long as it doesn't take away your job. So if Colin Kaepernick for the
Understood.
protest, instead of running a touchdown, took a knee on the 1 with 1 second left in the game, I think then we will have issues.
Fair point. Brandon, you have the floor.
As far as what you're saying, I do understand like how you're saying you wear the Kobe Bryant thing and on your wrist, and you see people with like different kinds of wristbands for different things. For a long time, some people might be too young to remember this, the whole Live Strong bracelets or whatnot. Now you see the Kobe Bryants and the Black Lives Matter and breast cancer awareness and all those kinds of things. I don't think anybody would have been upset had Colin Kaepernick decided that he was going to wear, a Black Lives Matter wristband or something like that while he was out there doing his job. I think there's certain levels of things that are, acceptable and whatnot. I think one of the biggest issues that you run into is picking and choosing things that you can and cannot represent. For instance, like, and I'm still not 100% certain how factual it is, but there was an employee for Goodyear that posted whatever he posted online about how employees in that meeting were given a demonstration and they were told they're allowed to wear stuff that says Black Lives Matter. They're allowed to wear stuff that says, LGBTQ, but they are not allowed to wear stuff that says Blue Lives Matter. They're not allowed to wear anything that says Make America Great Again, even if it doesn't say Trump on it. They're not allowed to do this and that and represent these things. Well, at that point, you get to a situation where, okay, why is it okay for that person to show their beliefs at work, but I'm not allowed to share my beliefs at work? You're now discriminating against who's allowed to share what beliefs and what topics they're allowed to share their beliefs on. Now, for people to wear wristbands and like the whole breast cancer thing that you brought up and the military thing that you brought up for like the players of the NFL and all that stuff is mostly put on by the NFL as an organization. Now, you look at the military aspect, I would hope that most people are supportive of the armed forces of the United States, because if we ever were to go into a war where we could potentially lose our freedom here in the United States, those would be the men and women that are dying so that you don't lose your freedom. And I think everybody can also back the fact that, they know someone or have heard of someone that has dealt with breast cancer, lost someone from breast cancer, and it's a terrible disease. Just, AIDS, HIV, a lot of other different diseases and things like that. Racism, unfortunately, you can't classify it as a disease. You're either a good person and you're open-minded to everybody being their own person, or you're a racist person, and that's just how it is. So to bring that kind of opinion onto the field at the work and like kneeling for it is significantly different than like you wearing a wristband at work.
I like that. You jumping in, Johnny?
No, well, I mean, I'm looking at the situation with Goodyear. I figured I'd take a look as an opportunity to fact check. We do have a photo that was posted by a alleged employee stating that there was zero tolerance, that you could not wear any propaganda relating to Donald Trump or Blue Lives Matter or Make America Great Again, but they were making an exemption for Black Lives Matter. And he is validated in what he said. Apparently that did happen. I mean, there has been nothing to the contrary to disprove it. But of course, things can be doctored. I mean, of course, anything can be contextualized, but based on what we see, it appears that this was the case.
Well, it's a couple of things. And I think, as what our conversation was last week, I don't think we're off base conceptually, but I think you just said two of contradictory points. You talked about, in essence, just to summarize, as long as everybody agrees with the message, you can present the message. So you talk about the Goodyear guy, how unfair it was that he's discriminated against, but you concluded your message by saying we should discriminate against Colin Kaepernick's message. Like you can't, both would be the exact same thing. Both are employees, both want to express themselves for what they value, And you're saying Goodyear because they don't value Donald Trump and Make America Great Again and Blue Lives Matter, which blows my mind. And I think it's the fault of racists for throwing blue lives and throwing things into black people's face as an antagonist to Black Lives Matter. That's what the issue is. But
sounds like another topic.
yeah, but you
Right.
that Goodyear is being discriminatory. You would have to equally say that the NFL was being discriminatory. And even going back with the Colin Kaepernick thing, he was trying when he first started to have as silent and as undisruptive of a statement and protest to keep with himself as possible. He just sat on the bench. Literally, if you could say anything, he violated flag code, which if you look around the stadium, people do it all the time. If you don't have your hand over your heart, violating flag code. If you are swaying, singing, holding your arm over your buddy, you're violating flag code. He just said, I'm not going to stand for it. So then the reporter asked because somebody saw him. So then he actually reached out to find someone. Okay, if that's disrespectful, tell me a way I can do the exact same thing and be respectful. And the serviceman told him, take a knee. And then that became like this issue. So it's not about him protesting. It's about people don't want to hear his message. So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't with that. So even going back to the Goodyear thing, and I know I was a little long one. We have a hat day at my school. And the one worry that we had about hat day is, okay, some students are going to wear their red Make America Great Again hat. And these are the things that went through my mind as a leader. Okay, I don't want somebody to knock their hat off their head and start a conflict. I don't want that person to just walk around and be a jerk with their hat and, use it theoretically as a weapon to be disrespectful to, let's say, a Muslim young lady that's wearing a hijab. It's all these things. So people want to remove the politics from it. And at times, because it's such a symbol of a political statement, a lot of companies, a lot of organizations are saying, you can't do anything that ties in directly to politics. And apologetically, Black Lives Matter isn't political. Democrats and Republicans and libertarians, that's political. But Black Lives Matter is actually not political in its core, if you get what I'm saying. It's an ideal. It's
like as a message, it's not political.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. As the message is not political. So that's where Goodyear guy, it sucks. But you're actually wearing something to make a political statement from governing bodies. Police are government employees. Make America Great Again, even though it doesn't say Trump. We all know it's tied to politics. Black Lives Matter isn't tied to politics. You could be a member of Black Lives Matter and be a Republican. You could be a member of Black Lives Matter and be a libertarian and be a Democrat. You just have to believe that Black Lives Matter. Nobody will question if breast cancer awareness is political.
Right. Fair enough. I think I see where you're coming from about how, like I had mentioned, like the Goodyear thing and the Colin Kaepernick thing. I think where I was going with that is, as far as like Goodyear, okay, if they want to wear a wristband or a shirt pin or something that says Black Lives Matter, great, go for it. If they want to wear one that supports LGBTQ, go for it. If they want to wear one that says Blue Lives Matter on it, go for it. And then, those are minor ways to show your personal opinion and support. And then, like I said, if Colin Kaepernick were to say, I'm going to throw on a wristband that says Black Lives Matter, and that's perfectly fine, go for it. I mean, do what you got to do. Though him doing the not standing up for the national anthem and the kneeling thing, I feel like is on a spectrum of 1 to 10, wearing a wristband being like a 1 or a 2, and not standing up for the national anthem and, kneeling during the national anthem, even though obviously people later found out that, that's what somebody said that he should do. I feel like, that's up there at like 9 or 10. So, I mean, to show your personal opinion on a smaller scale level when you're at work is one thing. To, if I walk into work tomorrow and I all of a sudden post like Trump pictures all over every wall inside the office of the shop that I run, that's on like a level 9 or 10 compared to me wearing a wristband that supports something that I believe in.
Right.
And then, the other comparison thing is one of the things someone brought up to me when talking about Colin Kaepernick was, they're like, oh, so he lost his career and lost this and lost that because of, when that whole thing started. And I was like, I mean, I hate to point this out. I don't think he lost his career. His career wasn't going anywhere because of the fact that he chose to do what he did. Colin Kaepernick, a lot of his coaching staff and teammates and stuff like that openly been open about him having some of his fits and some of his attitude towards other people. And then not to mention his stats for what he was expected to produce for the money he was getting paid were not there.
15 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. 15 and 4. Come on, man. Come on. Well, I think I told you that's the new. That's my guy. But no, I think one thing is understanding their platform and their message. I used to, and we kind of talked about it last week, it was social issues that 5 years ago, police shootings and things like that I had a kind of different opinion about because of my role as an educator and a leader. I had a good friend reach out to me, and he said, Vernon, when you say something contrary to the point, it's not that you're wrong, but people will use you as a weapon. So you're the token black voice that confirms their bias. So they're going to use you in that way. So because I'm an African American, if I had a contradictory opinion to Black Lives Matter, just like Candace Owens, right? Because her opinion is separate and it can confirm people's bias, her voice is magnified. Candace Owens is a high school grad that's a YouTuber. Like, she's no different than JoJo Siwa. Like, Siwa. Like, it's not, she's nothing. Right. She isn't well-versed in education. She hasn't studied amongst other scholars. No, she's a social media influencer. But because she's a social media influencer, her voice raises a little bit higher. Cardi B's voice raises a little higher. LeBron James' voice raises so much higher. So if you have understanding that your voice raises higher and it's something you're passionate about, speak on it. Because here's the difference. LeBron James is having coffee pot conversation, water cooler conversation. The only difference is his job, 40 million people see his water cooler conversation.
Right.
40 million people see that. So, like we're talking about wristbands, if the NBA players are wearing Black Lives Matter shirts or I Can't Breathe shirts, yes, their message gets out further, but I don't get why they're not allowed to make their message when, again, everything they do, they get to individualize things. They don't have to wear the same shoe. They can wear any different brand. They can wear any different color. And even if you take NFL players get fined every week for something that violates the NFL uniform code. And it's messages on shoes, it's the length of their socks. Like, some things they just do for swag, some things they do to get a message across. But they get to do that. Pre-game, NFL players can wear whatever shoes they want. That's where they choose to wear a social justice cleat or just a fashionable cleat. So it's all these things. If it's not, and unlike popular opinion, people have been dying for professional sports. It's not ruining the bottom line. Professional sports leagues aren't going into the red because all the LA Lakers and Miami Heat took a knee before a game. People still watching. People still consuming.
and people are still going to watch. People are still going to do what they're going to do, and you'll see posts all over the place that are like, we're going to boycott the NFL, or we're going to boycott this or boycott that and whatnot. And I think a lot of, and obviously, again, me not being black, I don't know this for sure, but I do see a lot of black people that are on my friends list that will comment on those kinds of things and be like, oh, you're against social justice, you must be racist. And it's like, that's not the case. Like, me personally, I absolutely love sports. And I'm all for the message of Black Lives Matter. I personally have no problem with it whatsoever. My biggest concern is on the news, on the radio, on the internet, in your email, on your phone screen, on billboards, on satellite radio, everywhere you look. Hell, on video games, the load screen. Like, everything is about social justice issues right now. And
algorithm, though.
What's that?
Blame your algorithm. Like,
well,
this is a side note question. I had a parent send an email very upset that she went to the school athletic webpage, and in the advertisement browser, it was an advertisement for Lover's Lane. She said, how can a school have an advertisement for Lover's Lane on their athletic webpage? I didn't have the heart to tell her that was in your search browser, and that advertisement space is populated with whatever is in your search browser. So, ma'am, it's the fact that you were on it, and that's it. So social justice issues is just like I talked about. Everybody on Facebook right now that's very conservative and family values and structure is so mad at Netflix and this movie or show Cuties, but they keep posting about Netflix and Cuties. So what is happening to the algorithm for Netflix and Cuties? Those are showing up in their face, but it's their own doing.
The need is still there.
Well, but then you take into consideration that's more so that explains a lot of like what you see on the internet and stuff when you're going to different web pages and whatnot. But like radio, satellite radio, Spotify, TV, the news, commercials. Like I said, video games. I remember it was just 6-8 weeks ago or something like that. I went to log in on PlayStation on Destiny 2 and all across the like PlayStation main menu. And when I loaded the game, it had like Black Lives Matter stuff all over the place. And don't get me wrong, I'm not against the message. I think the biggest thing that a lot of people want to boycott is the fact that, like, for instance, when I come home and I want to play some video games and, kind of let loose a little bit and unwind from the workday, I want to block everything out that's happening in the world. I've been hearing about it all day long from every source possible, and I need an hour or two to just do what I want to do. So, like, when I turn on the sports game, I want to turn it on and I want to watch two teams give it their all, go at it, do whatever they're going to do. And I want to escape away from all of the major stresses that the world is constantly shoving down your throat. And that's possible when you have people doing that.
I want to pull a Vernon so bad from last week, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to stay impartial. I will. I'm trying to not do that, but feel free to respond, Vernon. I will continue to fact check.
But I think kind of the original conversation starter was about athletes utilizing their platform. And I think I'll still go back to it. I just think if it's a message we believe in, that everybody believes in, that people wouldn't question, then we're okay with that. We're okay with the athlete. We're okay with athletes bringing a cancer patient to the game. We were fine with Ohio State and Purdue playing a football game, and a Purdue student got probably a good 30 minutes of coverage during the game with the number one team in the country playing. We're fine with that. We're fine that cancer was right in our face, that human life was right in our face. A sad story. Seeing this young man in a wheelchair, no hair, we were absolutely fine with that during the middle of our consumption of college football in a primetime game. But when a black athlete wants to bring awareness to a black issue, all of a sudden they kind of should stay their role. And I shouldn't even just say a black athlete, because celebrities. I think it's asinine that people are bothered during an acceptance speech at an award show, at the Oscars, at Grammys, that people bring up social issues. You really give two bleeps about the 30 million people that you don't know that they're thanking up there? I want to thank my publicist, John Small. I want to thank my makeup artist, Suzanne Rowe. Like, nobody gives two shits about those people. So all of a sudden, you want to hear their names instead of them saying, I want you to arrest the cops that killed Breonna Taylor, that are costing taxpayers in Louisville $12 million. Hashtag arrest the cops that killed Breonna Taylor.
I do see what you're saying. I feel like the best way to remedy that is to basically make entertainment about entertainment. If celebrities and athletes want to have personal feelings on topics, so let's pretend Colin Kaepernick didn't kneel or not stand and do all of that. Let's ignore that, move forward and say, okay, he played for the 49ers, he was quarterback, and some people, Vernon, think he was amazing. And let's say he takes his personal opinion and everybody, all the millions of fans that he has, and he starts sharing his personal opinion through video logs and going to demonstrations and protests and holding get-togethers and things like that. I'm all for it. Go for it. You've got all your millions of fans and the people that want to be there and want to hear your personal opinions and thoughts on social justice issues or who you think the best president in the world would be. Those are the kind of people that are going to show up and be there to support you. But a large portion of NFL fans literally just want to see football. They don't want to see anything else. And don't get me wrong, yes, a lot of people believe Black Lives Matter. A lot of people believe that cancer is terrible. But there's a lot of people that would say, I really don't want to watch 30 minutes of the kid with cancer during the #1 football game. Yeah. I want to watch the football game.
But then my question would be, do you think that the professional athletes wouldn't be okay with not having to wear a shirt that says I can't breathe because they watched a guy on their Facebook feed when they just wanted to consume nonsense through TikTok or Facebook or Instagram, that they had to watch a police officer while a guy is crying for his dead mother and has a knee on his neck and is gasping for air and he is spitting up? You think that like it's a quid pro quo? You see law enforcement officers kill someone even without the full story, and you can rationalize that person wasn't in the act of trying to kill an officer. I think the athletes don't want that. There wasn't a social justice issue.
I would say that 99% of America, after seeing the videos and whatnot, I mean, I don't care about the man's criminal past or any of that. As I told the guy the other night, and I was showing Johnny what it was, it's just like you said, I think, last week. Cops don't have the right to be judge, jury, and executioner. Everything you do has a consequence, but the consequence for not listening to an officer doesn't mean death.
Right.
And, although most people agree with that, I mean, go, Colin Kaepernick, throw on a shirt that says I can't breathe. Go walk around at some of these protests. Go use some of your money to put up a commercial with some of your personal thoughts and wearing a shirt that says I can't breathe.
Right. But then that goes back to it. People got upset with Nike because 2 or 3 years ago, Colin Kaepernick gave his opinion of how people might feel about seeing a 1776 shoe, and Nike pulled it, and all of a sudden, Colin Kaepernick's vilified as being un-American. Or people when he says he sacrificed a lot, here's what Colin Kaepernick sacrificed. He had a contract with the 49ers. He opted out of it to go to another team. Whether it's the fact that people don't feel that he was the quality of a starter worth the media frenzy that would sign, it happens all the time. Ray Rice, it happens all the time. Eric Berry right now. Teams have to gauge, is this worth us bringing this guy in? That's understandable. And I don't question that Colin Kaepernick doesn't have an understanding that his stance, his taking a knee outside of stance, that's the reason why he's not employed in the NFL. If people aren't questioning, the question from his end was, does that make sense?
Right.
You know, he didn't commit a crime. He didn't do any of those heinous things. So just having an opinion that other people don't like because he should just set up and play a game is just that's tough. But the other piece is, like I said, the news, ESPN doesn't give a shit about what they're doing Monday through Saturday.
Right.
And that's the point where people don't know. Like, I'm not a LeBron fan. He's from the state south of us. Not a LeBron fan, strictly because he was born in the state south of us. And the thing about LeBron, though, when people are questioning him, he sat at tables that I would never sit at. He's talked to presidents. He's talked to dignitaries, ambassadors. Like, he sits next to the richest of the richest, and he's granted a seat at those tables. So he has an experience in diplomacy. He has an experience in philanthropy that I don't have. So I respect his experience. But he also started a school. I know Jalen Rose has a school in Detroit. Like, yep. Lamar Woodley has a school in Saginaw. We can't sit here and act like athletes do nothing. Lamar Woodley ran his football camp. Brandon Graham has a football camp at East English in Detroit. They don't charge people. Jason Jones had a camp at Southfield Lathrop. He didn't charge kids. He's giving back. Now, there's a reason. Every professional athlete has a foundation.
Right.
And you make a lot of money, you spend a lot so that taxes don't hit you. But these people are actually going out and doing social justice things. But guess what? Fox 2 News doesn't give a shit that LeBron James just visited the hospital, Mott's Hospital at U of M. Because that's what college teams do all the time.
Right.
Yes. So there was a time during the middle of them having a platform of 50 million people, they decide to speak. Hey, speak. And if people are bothered by that, now they need to ask themselves, are you bothered by not having the release of athletics, or are you bothered by somebody that you think should just shut up because they're rich? They don't have the social justice problem because they're rich. So there was a time.
And honestly, it could be a combination of both of those. Some people are like, you're an athlete. I want to watch you play a sport. I don't care what your personal opinion is. And there are other people that are like, you've basically been ready to play in the NBA since you were like 15. You really have no idea what any of these people are going through for you to speak on it. You really don't have that experience. But then I guess the other thing that gets to me is you'll have athletes that sit there and, wear the I Can't Breathe shirts or kneeling during the national anthem and whatnot. But then you have a celebrity like Tim Allen. I'm trying to think of the name of his current show, Last Man Standing or something like that.
Correct.
I believe it used to be on at 7, 8 o'clock, somewhere around there or whatnot. And because of the fact that he is a wide open Republican and extremely conservative, and he has no problem making that known, the station that had his show literally took his show and moved it until like 11:30 at night.
Right.
Like, why is he not allowed to have his opinions and thoughts without being punished? Because now his ratings go from however many millions of people may have been watching his show to now it's 11:30 at night, and most working class people are not going to stay up till 11:30, midnight, 12:30 to watch a show.
So if the producers of the show, if the directors of the show, or even if the media outlet chooses to let that happen, chooses to do that, that's how they get to run their business. It's no different than Colin Kaepernick. I don't think it's right, but Colin Kaepernick still doesn't have a job. The difference is, and I understand like the cancel culture thing, but let's compare Tim. If I say Tim Allen and Colin Kaepernick both got the short end of the stick for their social stance,
right?
Well, kind of leading to these difficult discussions. Well, what else went down the ladder of Colin Kaepernick that didn't happen with Tim Allen? Tim Allen, cancel culture moved him into an undesirable time slot, but nobody called him spoiled. Nobody told him he should just shut up. Nobody called him ignorant. Nobody questioned how many other things he does for conservative platforms. Nobody questions that. They just say, hey, we think you're kind of a jerk and we don't agree with your stance. So you still have your show. We're just going to move it. Roseanne, hey, we're going to kill you off your own show. So, hey, sorry for you. We don't want you here. Yeah, that happens. But I think because I think it also bleeds down from entertainers, athletes, actors and singers. And even another issue that happened this past weekend is on 9/11 in the I think it's called Little Miami, but it's in eastern Ohio, Cincinnati area. And 2 football players had a Blue Lives and a Red Lives flag, which I don't really get, but whatever. It's pro police officers, pro firefighters flag. And they came out beginning of the football team carrying their flags, and they were subsequently disciplined by the school or by their team for doing that. Well, the outcry was they can't express themselves. Why not? Because there was a letter and a statement given to all players. We will not show anything other than the United States flag. We will not make any political stance, and we won't do these things. As long as you know these things up front, you should be able to accept the consequences. But I think for us as consumers, when we're judging these athletes and entertainers, let's also look at what else we add to them because we don't like their message. Tim Allen, Kid Rock, all these guys, nobody kind of questions them. Kid Rock is a spoiled brat from Romeo, Michigan. Like, he was born rich. His dad owns
a lot of dealerships.
He's never struggled a day in his life. He doesn't know.
He struggled as an artist because his music is pretty terrible.
But he would have the exact same thing as all these athletes that should just shut up. Hey, go have a concert, buddy. Like, nobody cares that you support Donald Trump. Go have a concert. But when he's in Harrison Township this week at a Trump rally, nobody doesn't want him to just play his guitar. No, nobody does that to him. Nobody says, well, where were you at when we had the abortion rally? Nobody gives a shit about that.
Let me hop in real quick because there are some people in the comments that are wanting some things to be expressed, and I feel like me mentioning them here might be able to add to the conversation. So a couple of these are directed at you, Brandon. For instance, in terms of the whole kneeling situation, I tried to sit back and see if maybe it would get discussed, but it hasn't as of yet. But correct me if I'm wrong, you are a vet, right?
Yeah.
All right, so you're a vet. You fought for this country. You believe in freedom. You believe for fighting for freedom, right?
Yeah.
All right, so there are people in the comment section that are curious then when you take a stance or lack thereof as kneeling during the national anthem, that would be considered a peaceful protest. It is not antagonizing in any way. It is not obstructive to anyone physically in any capacity. Thus, it would fall under the First Amendment with your right to do so. So as a vet, as a soldier, from that perspective where some may feel that it is disrespectful to you or the flag, wouldn't you feel that that in itself is the essence of what you do? So then why would you take issue with it? I mean, we're not talking about burning an American flag, something
Right.
that's inherently disrespectful. We're literally talking about taking a moment to bring attention to yourself, to then have people ask, why are you doing this? To then be able to answer the question with your message. So this person is curious, your take on that as a vet, because clearly, you feel that it was obstructive and it's not something that you feel was conducive of what entertainment should be. Because I feel like your point is basically you want entertainers to entertain you. That is what you're consuming through them. So when they take opportunity to present a message that may not be considered entertaining, you find that it's out of the bounds of what they should be doing professionally. So go ahead and answer that question real quick for me.
As far as the specific situation of kneeling, peaceful protest, I completely understand. At first, when I saw it on the news and I saw and heard about it and whatnot, at first I felt like it may have been disrespectful. Now I will also say immediately after that, there's a lot of people that have fought and died for this country for people to be able to have their freedoms and their rights, and whether or not they agree with how those people choose to use their freedoms is not our choice. I definitely disagreed with it in the beginning. I don't disagree with it now, other than the fact that I feel like all entertainers are there to entertain, and personal opinion should be after the entertainment segment is done. I don't find it disrespectful towards the American flag or the soldiers at this point anymore, now that I understand more so what he was trying to accomplish with it.
Okay, so given that, why do you feel that so many people who aren't vets, who haven't had that experience that you have such a strong opinion of how it reflects on you, where you could make the distinction to understand why he was doing what he was doing, and so many others can't? And they're still, to this day, on that same argument. He's disrespecting the troops, he's disrespecting the flag, when even you yourself as a vet, the person that they claim is being disrespected, can see that that is not the case.
I think the hardest part about this is the cancerous mentality of somebody posts something on the internet that says, oh, he kneeled during the national anthem, and that's disrespectful to people that fought and died for the country and whatnot, and people that are still service members or veterans and whatnot. And it spreads like wildfire, because it raises a burning flame in somebody, and it just spreads and spreads. And truthfully, the people that haven't served in the military and aren't serving in the military, I personally, yes, they have the freedom to express their thoughts on it. I really don't feel like they have the capacity to say anything about it, because they didn't serve or fight or die for any of those rights.
Okay. All right.
They need to worry more so about what's going on in their life, instead of trying to put thoughts that, I'm disrespected by something, when I'm the person that, should be making that judgment call because I served. I'm not somebody that hasn't served making the judgment call for me.
Okay, I totally understand and respect that. And right before I get back to you, Vernon, I've taken a little bit of time here, but there was one other person that was very passionate in the comments, and I just want to acknowledge it. So one other thing, to Brandon in terms of the entertainment aspect, wanting to be able to get away from the ills of the world to, decompress, from your day and enjoy things. Now, there is someone in the comment section who has stated, a lot of African American people who have people close to them or know of people who have dealt with these plights that are being spoken on, they don't want to deal with that. I want to do my job and go through the day. I don't want to have to hear on the news about another Black person getting murdered by the police under questionable circumstances, and they have to hear that all day. And then when they get home and they turn on the game, here is someone validating their pain, wanting to bring awareness to their issue to hopefully breed change. And I feel like they would see that a lot differently, where even though they are just like you wanting to be entertained, they have an opportunity through the message to decompress. Here is someone acknowledging the pain that I'm experiencing and advocating for change to make that something that I no longer would have to deal with. So I feel like, again, you are completely validated in your beliefs and your stance on the subject, that there, of course, are people who see it a different way. So I'm going to give the floor back to you guys. I took a second here, and I only did it in the capacity of there were comments, so I wanted to bring them to light. But Vernon, I'm going to give you an opportunity to bounce off of what you've just heard.
Well, my question, and I've had, obviously, that's why we're here. We've all had these conversations rotating. Is it just because we think in the way, I'm kind of asking you this, Brandon, that people are opportunists with it, that they're sensationalizing it just to even, so I don't want to be disrespectful, but let's say a Kardashian, because they're big time social media influencers, that people don't believe that the Kardashians are doing it out of a spirit of camaraderie, out of a spirit of support. They're just doing it to find their next way to getting another buck, finding their next way to get more likes, more clicks on their whatever platform. Is that what bothers you too?
Not really. I mean, anybody that's trying to make a name for themselves, even if they already have a name, they're still continuing to want to grow. I mean, that's expected. Anybody in life that's doing something and they're not trying to grow and be more successful, if that's not your end game, you're doing life wrong. I'm sorry.
Right. So, yeah. So, I mean, so then if we don't believe that people are sensationalizing, it is just kind of one of those things that, for me, they're a person. So we're just three regular guys on Facebook, and we got some strong ass opinions. Just because they dribble a basketball and they're in the top 99th percentile of skills in the world, they're not allowed to be just like us and talk about these things. And conversely, like, I don't think LeBron James or anybody, Carmelo Anthony, can just sit there on their Facebook and say, like, oh man, look at my publicist posting about George Floyd. Like, I don't think they can do that. And I thought I don't know if you guys watch Hard Knocks, the glimpse of after the video of Jacob Blake came out and Sean McVay saw it for the first time, and you saw those kind of real up to the moment, the impact of seeing a professional athlete, a head coach, and all these people like have to digest it. That made like the human nature of what we're all feeling kind of happen. Like, we're starting to get to those places where we see these things and it's like, damn. And they are coming back to back to back. But I think just like Johnny said with the comments, if I can say like, man, this sucks, and then see somebody that says, yeah, this sucks, for my confirmation bias, I'm happy to see that somebody different from me supports me, or is feeling the same way. So I don't know. I don't step into your professional world, because hell, I understand when, like you said, when people are doing their job, you should just do your job. Well, shit, 50,000 people don't come to see me do lunch duty on Tuesday. Like nobody, 100,000 people aren't packing the plant to see somebody make a widget. So
Right.
their occupation is different. It's inherently different.
Right. And I can't disagree with that. And I think to get towards some of what you said and actually some of what Johnny was talking about with, I think, the second comment is, so, you see, the whole decompression thing, and athletes should just do their jobs or whatever because people want to watch sports because they enjoy them and they want to decompress from the stresses of the world. And, you have a lot of people that think that most white people that are like, hey, like, shut up, do your job. I just want to watch you throw a damn football. They think that you're immediately racist and you don't support the message. It's not that I don't support the message of Black Lives Matter. It's I want it to escape everything that's happening now. And the reason I say that is, and I hope this doesn't come off wrong. Yes, I support the message of Black Lives Matter, but not being a black man, I cannot say that I'm affected by it. I'm not directly impacted by that social justice issue, or I'm not directly impacted by this issue or that issue that these people are, trying to display during that entertainment. So on the same sense, and I could be way off base here, I feel like if there was a bunch of white football players going out on the field wearing all kinds of stuff and doing stuff that said Blue Lives Matter, you would probably have a lot of black people that may be pissed off at them for using their platform in the other manner and saying, you should just shut up and do your job. We don't watch this to see you say that Blue Lives Matter.
So basically what you're saying is bringing up like Drew Brees, for example, how he took a lot of heat for, advocating against kneeling and essentially had to backpedal because of it. Go ahead, Vernon.
Right.
Well, but here's the difference. We actually have evidence of that not being true. Like, again, going back to it, every November, it's military, and nobody questions that. But say what's going on with the Pittsburgh Steelers right now, Alejandro Villanueva decided not to put Antoine Rose, like he covered up the name that all the Steelers players decided to put on the back of their helmet. And he put a war casualty soldier, he decided to put that sergeant on his helmet. Now, here's I don't feel bad about the backlash he gets because he hasn't explained why. It's looked at twofold. It's not that he was supporting this Sergeant Cachet, which he could have posted on his social media. He could have said, today during the game, I am not taking away anything my teammates are doing by doing this, but I believe that I want to celebrate some of the good in the world, and being a vet, I want to put this gentleman's name on my helmet. I'm going to change the name every week. I understand there's social justice issues, but I also believe there's heroes in this country that aren't celebrating them. He could have put that out in advance, and I don't think he would have caught the backlash. But when he did it in his manner, just like the Blue Lives, if you say Blue Lives Matter after I say Black Lives Matter, it's not about you supporting Blue Lives. You just tried to drown my message with yours.
Right.
So I hope things get better, but if opening, let's fast forward in a year, September 11th next year will be a college football Saturday. At the beginning of college football Saturday, there are going to be people they're going to be a row of first responders, police officers, firefighters being acknowledged at the game. Nobody's going to boo them unless it comes 2 days after a video of a black man is killed, and then people rush to find out if he had a detention in 6th grade and all of these other things. That means that you're trying to mute the point, Right. So I think for Drew Brees as a professional, for Tim Allen, you have to understand the temperature of the room you're walking in too. if I go on a job interview, I might not walk in on with a job interview in a conservative area. Let's say I'm going up to Ludington, Michigan. I might not walk into my Ludington, Michigan job interview wearing my Black Lives Matter shirt with my LGBTQ plus wristband and say, hey, how's it going? Hey, I understand we got to teach math, science, English, and social studies, but before then, we're going to talk about how we need to accept everybody in the world. I won't be shocked if I don't get that job at that time.
Right.
Because I should know the temperature of the room. So I also think the media, instead of just talking about people kneeling, how about they ask people to speak about their kneeling? NBA did a great job with Tobias Harris when they first got to the bubble. He said, hey, I'm sorry, I can't talk about anything because I'm just going to spend my time wondering why the cops that haven't arrested or that killed Breonna Taylor haven't been arrested. Like he used his media time to bring that awareness.
Right.
I think Alejandro Villanueva, if he would have done that, his message doesn't seem like it's against Antoine Rose. It would be supporting Sergeant Cachet.
Yeah, it's just choosing to support another thing. It's not trying to take away from something else.
But
Can I
think
do one more time real quick?
Yep.
Thank you. Now, this question is for you, Vernon, because I've noticed something that I wanted to bring up where, again, I'm showing to be impartial here and not just, piling with my message against a person who may disagree. Now, one thing that was brought up earlier in the conversation was relating to not affecting bottom lines. Now, how is your take on the situation that just happened not too long ago where teams decided to just flat out not play and games were either postponed or canceled? Now, I would have to imagine that that decision affected some bottom lines for people who were expecting to make money that day that did not get the opportunity to do so. So in that respect, what is your take on that type of activity?
It's tough because, say, the NBA playoff games, they just got moved to another night. And that happens with inclement weather. Right now, even if there wasn't coronavirus, I don't think they're playing any football games in Oregon this weekend because of the wildfire. So moving things, I don't think that changed the bottom line. But I think that people should be able to rationalize impact. And if the impact is going to be greater than the message, you may not want to do it. But again, I don't think the NFL is going broke because players kneel. I don't believe the NBA is going broke or people are losing endorsement deals for taking knees. I don't believe that any of these billionaires are about to sell their teams because of these social issues. And again, if the players choose to do that, the owners can choose to do what they need to do to generate more revenue. And if that means, okay, we're going to bring in a different coach, we're going to bring in a different so-and-so, that's it. But it still goes back to, for me, I don't understand why we see these messages from so many other people and we only have an issue with, I think, underlying bias, implicit bias, who we believe should not have a voice. Greg Popovich talks about the president directly like a dog all the time. No owners, you don't hear the San Antonio Spurs owners like, hey, we might need to reel this in. Steve Kerr talks about the president like a dog. And nobody does that. But also, politics are in sports because when teams win championships, they go to the White House. When teams win championships, municipalities shut down in order to have a parade. So politics are in sports, but But I mean, Donnie, to kind of answer your question, it's up to people in their governing body to make decisions that are best for their organization. And from the social element of it, if you are seeing a bunch of people, like your clients, that are disagreeing with the social issues, Mike Vick type situation where people are protesting at your games and all these things, you may not sign it because it's causing you too much angst. But I also think that Mike Vick's situation, Ray Rice's situation, all those are separate from somebody saying that, hey, you should care about people that look like me because you love me. Like, people love LeBron. People love Michael Jordan. People love Kobe Bryant. People love these athletes when they're scoring and jumping, doing all these things. People don't care about infidelities. Nobody cares that Lou Williams was in a strip club to get wings. Nobody cares about him as a person. But the moment that they care about people that look like them, all of a sudden the vitriol comes out. And that's what I don't understand.
What do you got to say, Brandon?
As far as what you're saying, I just want to play out a scenario because you've said on just recently, they can find a different way to make money. They're not going broke. They're not doing this. They can, do whatever. Now, I've also heard you say on more than one occasion, anybody can choose to do whatever they want because they have the freedom to do that. And then there's consequences. Mm-hmm. Hypothetically speaking, player goes out, chooses to do whatever he wants to do as far as like bringing attention to some sort of issue that he feels is near and dear to him. Team decides to let that player go because they noticed a 20% decrease in their team merchandise, team stores at the games, what people are buying and how many people are watching their games. Now, if that's a black player that's, advocating for social justice issues with Black Lives Matter, and the team says, listen, it can be a great cause, that's wonderful, but I'm losing money, millions of dollars, because you're choosing to do that, I'm going to fire you. And then you have a bunch of backlash towards that team owner saying, well, you're just doing that because you're racist. How fair is that? Because the player made the choice. The team owner that lost a shit ton of money then reprimanded that player for what he was costing him. Do you feel like that's right?
They're like, do I feel that it's right that the owner gets backlash or the player getting released or fired?
The backlash that comes from it.
Well, the backlash that comes from it. Here's the thing: if they're making financial decisions and the backlash starts to affect them financially, they need to start weighing their options better. But I will go with this with Colin Kaepernick. He wasn't the reigning MVP of the NFL. He wasn't a first-team All-Pro. He wasn't a Pro Bowler. So it's easy to quantify, oh, man, me having to deal with this is not worth having you on the team. And in teams that didn't sign him, the NFL as a whole got a lot of backlash about that.
Right.
The key to it all from the ownership standpoint is if you meet with your players, if you tell your players, hey, this is what we're going to do. Like the Steelers. All right, you all choose what we're going to do as a team. And all these things start to happen. If people step outside of that and is ruining your bottom line, hey, it happens. But if an owner does it not because the bottom line, which is kind of hypothetical, if the owner does it just because this guy should be running, jumping, catching, shooting, dribbling for me, instead of trying to be educated and speak on things, that's where I think the backlash should be warranted.
Okay.
If it's my third string quarterback decides to, I'm just going to be extreme, decides to spit on the flag, he gets cut. Tyrone Wheatley once said, in a meeting that I was with. When he was with the Raiders, Al Davis told him, hey, you see that guy, Rich Gannon? He falls asleep, you nudge him and wake him up. Jerry Rice, he puts his head down, wake him up. If that rookie puts his head down, I'm getting him a plane ticket. That's business.
Right.
But if he does it because, hey, that rookie has dreadlocks. Hey, that rookie has a bunch of tattoos and things like that. Now you're showing your bias. I don't think you should release people because of your bias. I don't think you should try and hush people or cut people because you have your own bias. But you are allowed to make a business decision.
Okay, I mean, I can see where you're coming from with that, but I mean, when you do take a guy like Kaepernick, he was on the bench at the time. Now, he also played in the Super Bowl, and people bought his jersey. He brings in an amount of money to the team with his presence. And like you said, you know, they have to weigh their options. Is the revenue you bring in worth the backlash that we get for your presence? Because there are people that will say, I am not watching your games because you have this player on your team because it goes against what I believe. For example, like myself, before all of this happened, before the backlash on the NFL, I didn't watch because Tom Brady had to sit 4 games, and I didn't agree with it. I didn't feel that it was justified, and I'm like, I'm not going to support this, and I don't feel that I should have to support it, so I'm making a stance. And that stance, minuscule as it may be, I don't feel that I was alone in that stance. So I'm sure that it did reflect on them in some way monetarily negatively. So you have a guy who has a message. There are people that don't agree with it. They're going to take issue with it. So I see from Brandon's perspective where he's saying, you know, you can't have a business where we have a situation on the field, people don't like it, and we have to make a decision. We either have to go one way or we go the other way. And where they assumed they were going was where the majority felt. And that could be true, but we are coming from a perspective where it affects us and how we feel about it. So we object to it. Now, I understand, you know, from the perspective of hierarchy, you know, okay, this is Michael Jordan. We can't cut Michael Jordan, so he gets to do whatever he wants. Brock Lesnar gets to take steroids and still compete, you know, because he brings in the money he brings in. But, you know, in terms of the message, Brandon, and I direct this portion to you, when these decisions are made and we take into account the elements that we utilize to justify it, you have to be cognizant that people are going to have a perception on why it's happening. You can tell me why something is happening, but I don't have to believe that. I have the option and the freedom to look deeper into the situation, look between the lines. So, you know, you take a team that did not have a caliber player of Colin Kaepernick. You would inherently be better off if you had Colin Kaepernick on your team. And in terms of monetary, you know, gains, there are people that support Colin Kaepernick. So having him on your team would make you money. And being a better team with his presence, in addition to the people that also support him, may actually outweigh the negatives of the people who would say, oh, well, I'm not watching your games because you have Colin now. You know, right. It's the ebb and flow. So, you know, when you do that and you don't hire this man, when you definitely need him, you know, how do you not perceive that as potentially racially biased because of his message? Because if his message was Blue Lives Matter, I don't think many teams would be arguing with him having a job, you know, because they support that. So again, you're showing bias, and in that vein, you are showing bias on the subject where one side is saying we matter, we should have equal standing when it comes to personal interaction, especially when it comes to police. You taking issue with that stance is basically being a counter to it. What is a counter to equality? Inequality. So we would take it then that you are supporting inequality. You know, they say a Sith only deals in absolutes, and there are gray areas. Like you have said many times here tonight that you support Black Lives Matter. However, you do not support that message being presented in channels that you don't want to see. You know, there are times where you don't want to see that message, and where you may feel that you are not being racist in saying that, and you have validation as the reason as to why you don't want to see that message. Again, people looking from it from a different lens can see that as combative. Like, you know, you turn on Call of Duty. There was like 2 weeks where you turn on the game, nothing, you had no choice. Black Lives Matter is on the screen. That's the first thing you have to see. And if you are a detractor, because let's say you don't support the organization, and a lot of people make that connection between the organization and the message as to be whole. That is one thing. Whereas if I say Black Lives Matter, I'm a Marxist, where that doesn't ring factually true. However, the organization itself does have many people that don't agree with it. So I can see where someone would take issue with having to see that, because they assume it's related to the organization and not the message. So again, like, you know, I'm not calling you a racist, and I don't want to call you a racist. I don't feel that you are. I don't feel that you've done anything here tonight to present yourself as a racist. But I can see from my comment section that there are some people that disagree with you, and they are leaning towards that aspect. And I'm saying this in terms of, I'd like to get your response on how you feel about the fact that there are people that flat out are looking at it objectively in the sense of, this person said his life matters, and you responded with a rebuttal as opposed to a confirmation. So even when you say all lives matter, you are rebutting that all lives matter. So if you're rebutting that all lives matter, that is showing that you do not agree that Black Lives Matter. You know, so how do you handle that as a white person when you are taking the stance you're taking in relation to how African American people or people of color perceive you? You know, because a lot of people take a defensive mechanism where, you know, you're calling me a racist. I don't have a racist bone in my body. I'm being discriminated against now because I'm white and I don't agree with Black Lives Matter. But then again, just repeat that. You just said, I don't agree with Black Lives Matter. So how can you not be perceived as someone who is biased when that is essentially your position? So give me your perspective on that.
It's like walking on eggshells and being stuck between a rock and a hard spot. Because although in my situation, like, I fully agree with the message of Black Lives Matter, do I necessarily feel like the organization of Black Lives Matter has like a nice warm fuzzy spot inside me? Probably not. The walking on eggshells part, it's difficult, because when I do have these conversations with people, I have to make it very clear, like, yes, I support the message of Black Lives Matter. And I, you know, have grown in the last 3, 4, 5, 6 months to understand that, you know, when people were screaming all lives matter, in my heart, I'm including Black lives, brown lives, white lives, all the lives. But in the same sense, you know, I was just explaining this to a coworker today, you know, the whole Black Lives Matter thing, and he started talking about the All Lives Matter thing. And I said, okay, a lot of white people, conservative white people especially, will refer back to like Bible verses and Bible stories about all kinds of things. And, you know, you've got the shepherd and the sheep, and you've got 30 sheep that are over here with the shepherd and one strayed away. Well, he left those 30 sheep to go get that one, because the one is in trouble. The 30 are not. And it made me really open up to realize that it's, you know, when people say Black Lives Matter, they're not saying white lives don't matter. They're saying we're the ones that are in trouble and under fire right now. So typically with situations like this, I'll start out with, yes, I agree Black Lives Matter. I show bias by, it comes off as bias when I say I don't want to see things like Colin Kaepernick and athletes like talking about or expressing about Black Lives Matter. But I want to counter that with, I personally don't want to see athletes share their personal opinion during their athletic event on any topic. It's not just a Black Lives Matter thing, a White Lives Matter, a Blue Lives Matter, what political affiliation you are. I don't feel like I want to watch a football game and see them express any of their personal opinions towards any of those things. Save that for when you're off the field in your personal life.
Now, do you make the distinction between those actions as being different from, like Vernon was saying earlier, with the military backing, the cancer awareness backing, that because as an organization those are sanctioned, that they're okay because they're not rogue actions as it could be perceived? Is that your distinction, where those things are acceptable because the entire organization has said they are? Is that where you make the line?
Well, this is actually a perfect way to point out that this whole show is about people being able to learn from things. At the beginning of this show, I probably would have said, yes, you have your rogue actions, and then you have NFL sanctioned actions where the whole player base is expected to portray a message. And now after, talking with you, talking with Vernon, hearing some of the comments and, thinking about some of the things, how I feel, I personally feel like if Colin Kaepernick's not allowed to kneel down to, draw attention to himself about, being asked why he did that and then bringing up, Black Lives Mattering, I don't feel like the NFL should be able to sanction any of those things either. You can't, it's just like the Goodyear thing. You can't pick and choose. You're either going to allow everyone to express what they want to express, or you're just not going to allow expression of your personal opinions while you're on the clock getting paid, making money for somebody.
All right, Vernon, you haven't had an opportunity to chime in because of me, and I apologize. So go ahead.
No, but I think it still just boils down to, like, Johnny, you might have hit the nail on the head with you have to be the converse of what you're saying when someone initiates the conversation. Yeah, if we go through metaphor after metaphor of, if I like this, that doesn't mean I don't like X, Y, and Z. If my favorite pizza topping is pepperoni, that doesn't mean I don't like anything else. But I just think that being a professional athlete, a lot is actually put on to you that people don't see. A lot of responsibility is put on you, and that voice from your platform. I mean, even take the WNBA. WNBA, women's soccer, they fighting their butts off to have a voice. They don't get as much of a voice until an NBA player says something. Women's soccer is winning World Cups left and right, and they're trying to say, hey, we're not being treated the same as the men that are scrubs. And because people just want them to, hey, it's good. You're not in the kitchen. You should go out there and play. All of a sudden, they should have a voice. Megan Rapinoe last summer got treated like she was anti-American, as she was literally representing America internationally, because people didn't agree with her message. And it's fine that you don't agree with their message, but you still need to be able to allow them they should have validity in expressing themselves just like all of us do. Now, in my job, I'm not sure about you all's jobs, I got policies and things that I have to adhere to. And that's where I go with the kind of consequence thing. If I want to express something, if I want to do something, I know a way to say it. One thing I've battled with is we'll have a football game tomorrow, and there's going to be a national anthem. It's tough for me because I've always loved the United States. I always put my hand over my heart, and I always think about my father during the national anthem. I said, well, I may not kneel because I think that's becoming kind of trivial. But I do want to say I'm going to do something to express some things, and I am going to take the time to practice my faith during an American ceremony, And I think as long as people respect each other and respect their opinions, listen to the message before you discount the message. Listen to my rationale before you discount my rationale. And that goes both ways. If Drew Brees wanted to say, hey, I have a different opinion about kneeling and things, but hey, that's on them. If you're asking me if I'm going to do it, I'm not going to do it. I don't have to give a reason for why I'm not going to do it. It's just that I'm not going to do it. But if Malcolm Jenkins wants to do it, if Michael Thomas wants to do it, I'm going to stand right next to those guys and support them because I support them in everything else we do. So
Right.
It's interesting because I also look at professional athletes a little bit different. Sometimes we look at like the LeBrons. He went straight from high school to the NBA. And we just think of him as, even though I joke about it, big dumb jocks. And I always looked at like Allen Iverson. And for when we grew up, Georgetown Warriors were great at basketball. But it was funny, since I was so young, I damn near thought Georgetown was a black college because their basketball team was all brothers. And they were all from New York and they were from the city. But you want to know what? Georgetown is a highly respected institution of higher learning in academia. Like, it's tough to get into Georgetown. That's a traditional East Coast school, private university. So why don't we think that Allen Iverson is smart if he can sit in Georgetown class for 2 years and have passing grades and all these other things? It's because people are racist and think that because he plays basketball, that's the only reason he's at the university. And for any other reason, somebody's doing his homework and he's just a dummy. No, these athletes pass the clearinghouse. They get good SAT and ACT scores. They're on college campuses. These are educated people. What stops them from being educated and being able to express themselves?
Right. The Allen Iverson thing, that gets to me because Allen Iverson's actually probably, I want to say, my all-time favorite player. I've never seen someone that just absolutely takes a beating like that on a basketball court and then keeps pushing. Me being somebody that was highly involved in sports, I see exactly what you're saying. I don't feel like most sports players are completely uneducated. They might not have as much life experience as some other people because they went from 17, 18 years old straight into the NBA and millions of dollars. I do see where you're coming from with the Colin Kaepernick thing and athletes being people and still needing to express their opinion. Like I said, from the beginning of the conversation up until now, I have changed my outlook where I don't feel like it should be a pick and choose situation. Like if people are going to frown upon Colin Kaepernick for being able to display his personal message, they should just look at the NFL and say, listen, you should not be displaying any kinds of messages. If you're going to do a week or a month or a weekend of nothing but military and then a month of nothing but breast cancer, then there should be nothing wrong with Colin Kaepernick choosing to do what he's doing. If you're going to have a problem with that, you should not be representing breast cancer, the military, or any other kind of organization or group of people. And that's where it's hard to really define. I mean, I'm not saying his message is bad by any means, but companies and organizations should not be able to pick and choose what messages can and cannot be displayed. I mean, unless it's like blatantly racist, obviously, those kinds of things cannot be allowed. But it's hard to say, you can do one, but you can't do the other. I just want to see the entertainment from the people that, I pay money to watch entertain. I mean, that's who makes their paycheck is people like all of us. And a lot of people, although they may agree with his message, they want to watch him play sports.
Right. And I also think another thing, the 24-hour news cycle has created that also. The reality show concept, like I love Hard Knocks. I loved when ESPN had all access for college football teams. People want to see them outside of those 60 minutes, those 48 minutes. And they do want to get to know them, connect to them. And like Johnny said, oh, he's just like me. Like he does things like me.
Right.
And sometimes they do things that I'm like, whoa, that's different. I don't do that. But hey, if I want to consume them in one capacity, I might have to consume them in another. So
yeah.
But this is kind of my final. I would say it's double-edged sword. If I believe that athletes should be able to speak, politicians embed themselves into athletics all the time. We had congressional hearings 15 years ago about steroids in baseball, like congressional hearings where guys testify under oath in front of the United States Congress about playing a game and it not being fake. So politics and people are synonymous. And you got people in these entities. So
Absolutely.
All right, well, we've gone an hour and a half, and that's kind of where we cut it last time. So I'd like to give you guys an opportunity for some closing statements, and we'll let the viewers, digest this and, move forward. Brandon, go ahead. You can start.
I mean, I feel like I've picked up on a lot from what you've said. Some of the questions that were asked really made me kind of rethink the way I was saying things or thinking about things. Some of the things that Vernon said. I mean, athletes on the field, off the field, they are still normal people. Everyone has things near and dear to their heart, things that, mean a lot to them. I wouldn't necessarily say that I've changed to the point where I'm like, sure, everybody just go out and represent whatever you want while you're out on the field. I feel like it's got to be cut and dry to avoid double standards, I guess. I want to see either everyone's allowed to represent whatever it is that they want to represent, as long as it's a positive message, of course, or you need to just remove it completely from sports and the entertainment industry as far as like celebrities and athletes. You've got to have it one way or the other where everybody can support whatever they want, or people can't support whatever they want while they're getting paid, and they can do that outside of work on their personal time.
So before you respond, Vernon, I just want to give one more thing. Given your stance in that regard, how can they do that as an organization when advertisements exist? So we can't say nobody can have a message and no one can have a platform, because at the same time, I have to advocate for Preparation H, or I have to advocate for Tide, or I have to advocate for XYZ, and these messages are going to be presented because they have to be presented. So there's still no way to, excommunicate a message from sports. The reason at the end of the day why these sports are played on a national level is because of advertising, because of money. They know people are watching these games. They're going to push their message that hopefully gets you to spend money on something else. So you're not going to be able to see a world where it's, pasteurized of messages. So I understand you have to have checks and balances. Like, we can't have every player wearing a different color, supporting a different thing at the same time, because it is a distraction. You're not looking at the game, you're looking at all these different messages. So I do understand that there needs to be a limit to it, but I don't think you're ever going to be able to see it not be there at all. So that's a difficult stance to make, because that's like, for instance, saying guns shouldn't exist. I'm like, well, they do, so where do we go from here? So, Vernon, I will give you the floor now to give your closing statement on things, and we can, wrap this up.
It's the one thing I say is it's easy for us to name Kaepernick. It's easy for us to name things like that. But then we don't think about like all the other guys that are on the team, even whether they're good or not. And it's just like when Brashad Breeland had a gun pulled on him by a police officer because he wasn't following the rules. And he's a professional athlete. And what would the NFL stance be if Brashad Breeland was shot by a police officer over something that he wasn't even detained for? But the officer was afraid of him because he was a 6 foot tall, 190-pound black man. Sterling Brown has a lawsuit against the city of Milwaukee for racial injustice against him because of the police department in Milwaukee. So outside of when they're wearing their uniforms, this isn't, a cartoon from Saturday morning in the 80s where NBA players are wearing their jersey all around. No, at some point, NBA players, NFL players, they're just regular people walking around. And Monday through Saturday, they're just black men. So they get treated like black men. They get to speak up when they have their platform on Sunday.
Okay. Now, thank you very much, guys, for coming on tonight. This was really fruitful. I'm glad I was able to sit back and allow you two to talk and be able to be a viewer, even though I did interject, but I only did it at the behest of my comment section. So I want to let the viewers know that obviously there will be other people participating in this. We're not just going to have Vernon and Brandon every week, but I would like to get, some feedback from people, and hopefully if they know people that would be willing to have that conversation, to come forward and, get in contact with me, because that's the biggest hurdle I have in doing this series, is finding people who can have a discussion about things that maybe don't agree. Because if we're just all in agreement, we're not really going to gain anything from that conversation. So, talk to your friends. I know, Brandon, you have had, people hopefully watching that, are friends with you, and maybe they reciprocate your views. And if they would be willing to come on and have a discussion with us, I would be, happy for it. So again, thank you for watching tonight, and thank you guys for participating. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to doing it again next week. I think Thursdays are going to become the new going date for this series. It works better for the people who want to participate. And if you have any suggestions for me, hit me up on Facebook, Messenger, what have you. Let's have a talk. I want this to get better. I want it to get more streamlined. I want to be able to bring a product to you that we can all benefit from. So I'm not going to go any further. Gentlemen, have a good night. Thank you for participating.
See you
Good
guys.
night.